Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
Entering a realm between the hidden and forgotten, a slipstream caught between realities, a secret museum of the esoteric, the private library of shadows, all taking place in a world forged from mystery and caught between logic and myth. You are entering ParaReality.
Good evening, seekers of the strange and the unexplained. Welcome to ParaReality, a place where shadows whisper, mysteries linger, and the line between fact and the unknown grows razor thin. I'm Sandman, your guide through the hidden corridors of reality. Here, every question awakens a mystery, and every mystery pulls us deeper into the truth concealed in the shadows. Tonight, we step once again into the world where truth and mystery collide.
This is Patrol Unit 7. We have located the crash site. Send medical and recovery teams immediately.
We found this scattered out on the ranch. It's unlike any weather balloon I've ever seen.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection. Today's edition presents a roundup of the latest developments in the finding of a flying disc. Late this afternoon, a bulletin from New Mexico suggested that the widely publicized mystery of the flying saucers may soon be solved. Army Air Force officers reported that one of the strange discs had been found and inspected sometime last week. Our correspondents in Los Angeles and Chicago have been in contact with Army officials endeavoring to obtain all possible late information. Joe Wilson reports to us now from Chicago. The Army may be getting to the bottom of all this talk about the so-called flying saucer. As a matter of fact, the 509th Atomic Bomb Group headquarters at Roswell, New Mexico, reports that it has received one of the discs which landed on a ranch outside Roswell. The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer. Colonel William Blanchard of the Roswell Air Base refuses to give details of what the flying disc looks like. In Fort Worth, Texas, where the object was first sent, Brigadier General Roger Ramey says that it is being shipped by air to the AAF Research Center at Wright Field, Ohio. A few moments ago, I talked to officials at Wright Field, and they declared that they expect the so-called flying saucer to be delivered there, but that it hasn't arrived as yet. In the meantime, General Ramey describes the object as being of flimsy construction, almost like a box type. He says that it was so battered that he was unable to determine whether it had a disc form, and he does not indicate its size. Ramey says that so far as can be determined, no one saw the object in the air, and he describes it as being made of some sort of tinfoil. Other Army officials say that further information indicates that the object had a diameter of about 20 to 25 feet, and that nothing in the apparent construction indicated any capacity for speed, and that there was no evidence of a power plant. The disc also appeared too flimsy to carry a man. Now, back to Taylor Grant in New York.
Well, Eric, what'd you think about that little video I put together there?
I loved it. Great use of the technology available.
That was the original audio recording from ABC News in 1947.
That's pretty cool that it's still out there.
Right after Roswell.
Yeah.
Right after the Roswell crash. Yeah.
Yeah.
So nearly 80 years ago, something happened in the New Mexico desert that continues to spark debate, controversy, and speculation even to this very day. It was an event that lasted only a matter of days, yet its impact, well, just not just through the world of ufology, but its impact in history that's going to echo through generations. It would inspire books, documentaries, movies, television series, even congressional inquiries and government investigations, and countless late night conversations about what may or may not have happened beneath the deserts in the scorching summer of the sun on July 1947. Most mysteries fade with time. Witnesses pass away. Evidence disappears. Public interest moves on to newer and more immediate concerns. And yet Roswell's proven remarkably resistant to that process, except for maybe the witnesses dying. In fact, you could probably say that the Roswell mystery has only grown larger over the decades. And at its core, the Roswell story appears really like a simple thing. There's a rancher who discovered strange debris that was scattered across his property. He notifies the authorities. The military gets involved. Then there's a press release issued that says, we've recovered a flying disc. And then almost immediately after that, the military changes its story, just like that. And it says, the object wasn't anything except just a weather balloon, and that's it. There's nothing to see here, people. Case closed. At least that's how it seems on the surface. But for a lot of us people, especially in the world of ufology, the case has never really been closed. There's a lot of lingering questions out there, like why did the military initially announce the recovery of a flying disc? And then why was the story changed so damn quick? And what exactly was found on that remote ranch right outside of Roswell, New Mexico? Were there additional crash sites too? Were there bodies that were recovered? Did the government conceal evidence from the public? Or did decades of things like rumor, speculation, and, just regular old degrading memories transform an ordinary military incident into one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century? And tonight, we're going to explore all of that, and we're going to try. We'll examine the documented history, the eyewitness testimony, the official explanations, and the controversial theories that continue to surround the event. We'll discuss Project Mogul. We'll talk about Major Jesse Marcel, Glenn Dennis, Hangar 84, the second crash theory. We'll even bring in Majestic 12, and we'll bring up Nick Redfern's disturbing alternate explanation to all of this. We're even going to talk about Cold War secrecy and the ways Roswell continues to influence modern conversations about unidentified aerial phenomena. And of course, as always, our goal here on ParaReality isn't to tell you, the listener, what to believe. What we want to do is examine all of this evidence, ask these difficult questions, follow the trail wherever it may lead, and then let you make up your own mind. Because after 79 years, one thing remains certain. Something happened in Roswell, New Mexico. The challenge lies in determining exactly what that something was. So settle in, dim the lights, and prepare to journey back, all the way back to the summer of 1947, just outside of Roswell, New Mexico. This is Roswell, 79 years of mystery. To learn more, you'll have to tune in, and find out. And we will be right back in about 60 seconds, and we'll start breaking all of this stuff down.
If data management is slowing down your business, you need the Intuit ERP. If one entity is here, and one here, and one here, and one here, you need the Intuit ERP. If scaling your business feels like starting over, you need the Intuit ERP. Intuit Enterprise Suite is the AI-native ERP solution that consolidates, migrates, and automates, all in one place. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
I wrote a little song to remind you, Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Cocktails up here feel just right. Is Cambria amazing? All right. Bring a date, your team, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com. See you on the roof.
ParaReality is a proud member of the Evergreen Podcast Network. For more information or to check out other shows on the network, please visit evergreenpodcast.com.
Broadcast from a secret bunker somewhere outside of Nashville, Tennessee. This is the award-winning podcast, ParaReality.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. You know, before we break it down and start talking about Roswell, I gotta tell you, Eazy-E and I are going to the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And well, by the time this episode airs, it'll be next week, baby.
I know.
Yeah.
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 A week away.
Yeah. So we're going to be there. We're going to have all of our gear set up. We're going to have podcasting equipment. We're going to have cameras. We're going to be there to collect your stories of the strange and the unexplained. If you're going to be an attendee and you've had a weird something unexplained, it could be, you know, it doesn't have to be Bigfoot. It could be anything. It could be a UFO. It could be
whatever it is.
Yeah, it could be whatever you got going on out there. If you're going to be there and you've got a weird story, whether it's ghosts, UFOs, aliens, cryptids, whatever, and you want to get it featured on the podcast, come find our table. I've got a graphic of, I think, where our table's going to be at. I'll see if I can put it up here on the screen for you guys that are watching the video. For you people who are audio only, sorry. I got nothing for you.
Come find us.
Yeah, just come find us. We'll be there with all of our stuff set up. Of course, we're gonna have merch. We got T-shirts to sell. I've got my books, 50 Cryptids in 50 States, and Palo Santo and Sage. I'll be selling that there. And let's see. Oh, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm telling fortunes. Did you know that I'm doing fortunes, Eazy-E?
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah.
What are you using? Tea leaves, or what are you using?
No, dominoes.
Oh,
dominoes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called domino theory. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
So this was this sounds so like you're just making this up, but no, this is true. This was talked to me by a dude named John.
Okay.
A long time ago. I don't even know how long ago. It's a very simple divination technique. Did you know that dominoes were originally developed not as a game, but as more of to tell fortunes and stuff?
By Aleister Crowley?
No.
Okay. Oh, okay.
No. It was the Chinese. So,
okay.
Yeah. So so I learned there's several. It's like tarot. There's all kind of different ways to read tarot and stuff. Well, there's different ways to do fortunes by dominoes, and I learned probably the most super simple one ever out there. So so anyway, we're going to be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. Got to tell you where it's at. It's in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, next week on July the 25th. And they're having all kinds of guests, all kinds of vendors. There'll be lecturers, all kinds of people like us who are into this unknown stuff, cryptids, UFOs, all that. There'll be a whole bunch of people there. Easy E and I are going to be there. We have our podcast gear set up. If you want to come and tell us your story and get it featured on the podcast, that would be great. You want to buy a book, buy some merch, that would be cool too. But really, just come by and say hi, because we'd love to meet you. We want to meet you guys that are listening to the podcast. We'd love to say hello and maybe hang out for a few minutes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully,
Yep.
Hopefully we get some listeners out there. That'd be really cool to actually meet people who listen. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens occasionally.
Yes,
It does,
yes.
yeah. So if you guys are going to be there, that is Saturday, July the 25th, next Saturday. We're going to be there all day long, podcasting, collecting your stories of the strange and the unexplained. So stop by, find our booth or our table, and say hi, tell us your story, get it on the air. Okay, that's enough about that. We're here to talk about Roswell, not the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. Not yet, exactly.
Yeah.
So, America in the summer, 1947, the Roswell Incident. Well, this thing didn't occur in a vacuum. Only 2 weeks later, or 2 weeks earlier, should I say, there was a pilot by the name of Kenneth Arnold who reported seeing 9 unusual objects near Mount Rainier. And newspapers, the way he described it, as discs skipping across the pond, and newspapers coined that flying saucers. And Americans became fascinated with strange objects in the sky. And at the same time, tensions between the U.S. and the Soviet Union were ramping up. The Cold War was at its very early stages, and military secrecy was like the big thing. It was becoming a normal way of life. Now, Roswell Army Airfield was home to the 509th Bomb Group, the same unit that was responsible for delivering the atomic bombs to Japan. And guess what? The crash of the UFO, the alleged crash, occurred right outside of Roswell, where the 509th Bomb Group was. So how much did the Kenneth Arnold sighting influence public perception of this? What do you think, Eric?
Well, I think the important thing you said there is it did not occur in a vacuum. I mean, 2 years earlier, we just ended World War II with 2 nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
And then Admiral Byrd had just gone to Antarctica.
Oh, my God, yes.
Crazy scenario there that people, I think, forget about.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there was a lot going on at this time. But I think as opposed to now, back then, the public had no idea these things were happening. Now with all the disclosure, whether you believe it or not, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult to hide things these days. So I think with Kenneth Arnold's description of what happened and it being so public in the newspapers at the time, there's that famous newspaper image, of these discs. I think that, there's no way that it didn't play at least some part in this whole Roswell thing. I mean, it was just a couple of weeks before,
Yeah, no, I think it definitely did, especially as far as like the descriptions and the news reports. That's really all people knew at the time about the so-called UFO phenomenon.
Yeah. Do you think that the phrase that the newspapers coined, flying saucer, do you think that could have influenced the military personnel that responded to the scene that night?
I think it could have. Probably did, considering, I don't think the people that responded were any, super secretive group. It seemed to be that 509th group?
Yeah. The 509th Bomber Group. Yeah.
I mean, they were probably Air Force guys.
We know at that time the Army and the Air Force weren't separate entities. They were the same.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it's funny you should mention that. So, that's kind of like another couple of talking points, which is how secretive was the military during this period, and why do you think the presence of the 509th Bomb Group was so significant in that?
Well, actually, I didn't. You just said that in before that. You said that the 509th, that was the group that dropped the atomic bombs.
They were the ones that was responsible for delivering the atomic bombs to Japan.
Okay. That I do find an interesting correlation, because there's a lot of theories out there that the reason all these UFOs popped up is because we harnessed the power of the atom to drop the bombs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, there's a bunch of stories of like UFOs flying over modern day nuclear sites in like Montana and Wyoming, and so there's a theory out there that like the UFOs are somehow like keeping eyes on us because we used nukes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that, the military was at this point in time was really super secretive, just because we were coming off of World War II. It was just like you said earlier, it was just a couple of years in the past, and the Cold War was just now starting. Even though we were on the same side as the Russians, they were still not necessarily our friends. They might have been allies, but they weren't necessarily our friends, more like frenemies at the time.
Frenemies, yeah.
So I think there was a high need for secrecy at that point in our history. And I think the military was very, very cautious about how to maintain those secrets and what they wanted to get out versus what they wanted to stay in, which is, that sounds kind of stupid when you say it out loud, but it's just like we were saying, today is more, it's more difficult. So there are some secrets that the military or the government is okay with getting out these days. But back then, secrecy was paramount, and they didn't want, I don't think, anything getting out. And the fact that the 509th was there at Roswell, I think that is a huge, it's either a huge red flag that they were involved in something that went south that they didn't want anyone to know, or it's just a freaking coincidence like hell that they were there, when that crash took place. Because who else would you think would be capable of going to a crash site and picking up debris and taking it away and hiding it, other than the people who are responsible for secretly delivering the atomic bomb to Japan?
Yeah, arguably one of the I don't know what the right word is, important, secretive missions of, war ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is a very interesting occurrence, I will say.
So let's have a little debate here. Would Roswell have become as famous as what it is if it had occurred 6 months earlier, before the Kenneth Arnold sighting? What do you think about that?
I think it would have, but I don't think people would have. I don't think people would have realized what it could be, because Kenneth Arnold wouldn't have been in the zeitgeist yet. It just would have been, something crashed in the middle of the desert. It wouldn't have been like, there's a flying saucer in the middle of the desert.
You don't think that UFO would have been anywhere remotely mentioned in that?
I think UFO would, but flying saucer would have not. I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
maybe
understand
they
that.
would have came up with that name, but maybe they would have came up with something else. Like disc. I don't know.
Yeah.
Disc something, yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Well, personally, I think I tend to be more along the lines of what you're saying. Was I think that it would have been not as a significant story, but I think it would have been something that definitely would have been headlines, but it wouldn't have been as impactful, and it wouldn't have been the same, we have a flying saucer here if the whole Kenneth Arnold thing either hadn't happened at all or had waited, until after that. Who knows? But in really, this whole thing was in danger of not even being remembered in the annals of history anyway, had it not been for a chance meeting between a couple of people. One of them, Stanton Friedman, and who was that? The grandson or the son of Jesse Marcel, and he just told him this story. And that's kind of what made Roswell into the fantastic conspiracy theory, UFO crash, secret government cover-up story thing that it is today.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for that meeting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, yeah, it is. So, I think that, excuse me, I think that it would have been impactful, but not as significant as what it has become had that been different. So,
yeah, moving on. So William Mack Brazel discovered scattered debris on the Foster Ranch. The material reportedly covered a substantial area and appeared unusual enough that he eventually contacted local authorities.
Yes.
Descriptions have varied over the years, but commonly included metallic foil, thin beams, rubber-like material, and pieces that witnesses claimed behaved differently than ordinary debris.
Yeah, it was like he could take some of it and crumple it up and open his hand, and it would fold back out.
Yeah, like
no
I heard
wrinkles
a term
or
for
anything.
that type of stuff, but yeah.
Meta material.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, yeah.
What do we think Brazel actually found?
God, that is such a good question.
Was it debris from the crash, or was it something else, like some other crash? Or
God, my squeaky chair. I'm so sorry. I've got to put some WD-40 on this thing. So, I think, it was definitely debris.
Okay.
No way around it. There was definitely debris. Now, whether it was debris from Project Mogul, or whether it was debris from a UFO, or whether it was debris from something else, he definitely found debris. But I don't have a clue as to what it was from. At one point in time, I was 100% positive this was Project Mogul, and he found debris from that. And I did a whole episode years ago trying to debunk Roswell, and I was on it's Project Mogul, train, and I keep him-hawing back and forth, and now I'm more on I don't think it was. I think there was something else going on out there. I don't know.
I'm looking at something that's saying on June 14th, he and his 8-year-old son were about 7 or 8 miles from the ranch house of the J.B. Foster Ranch when they came upon a large area of bright wreckage made up on rubber strips, tinfoil, and other, says paper and sticks here. And this is from an interview with Mac Brazel, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard that one.
I haven't. I've not read much on this encounter, but yeah. So it sounds like beforehand, which is bizarre.
Well, I know that he found the debris, and then he waited a while before he reported it, but I can't remember off the top of my head how long it was.
Yeah.
So,
So I guess, yeah, I mean, why did he wait? It sounds like he was puzzled about what it could be just from reading that brief account.
Yeah, I think he was. I think that at first he didn't know what he had found, and then he was like, well, I don't know what to do with it. Who do I contact? And I think that he ran into the local sheriff at a diner or something like that and just told him about it. I think I could be making that up too, But I know he waited
Yeah.
several days before he went to the local sheriff, and I just think he didn't know what to do. I think he was like, what do I do with this crap? Who do I tell?
Yeah, well, I mean, having been around, some people who kind of live out in middle of nowhere, for lack of a better term, they aren't the most forthcoming people, just based on, how they do day-to-day life. They pretty much keep to themselves. So
yeah,
that doesn't surprise me to a certain extent. That someone like that would maybe wait or not really think anything of it.
Well, personally, if it were me, I wouldn't know who to tell other than the police. I don't know that I would have waited several days, but I've never heard anything that said that he went through the debris himself looking for something. Maybe he thought, I can find, XYZ and make a little money or something. I don't know. That seems logical, but I'm also thinking about it in today's terms is what I think someone would do today, because
yeah,
let's face it, people are all about, today someone would have had their damn cell phone out and live streaming it, on TikTok or Facebook or something immediately. Yeah.
So I guess a question to kind of wrap up that short piece was if Roswell had simply burned the debris or thrown it away, would Roswell exist? Or would the lore around Roswell be as prominent?
That's a good question. I think if he just got rid of the debris, then he probably wouldn't have told anyone about it, at least not many people. So no, I think if he'd have just got rid of it, I don't think we would be talking about Roswell today. Not in the same way, at least, that we're talking about it now. He would have had to have made some sort of deathbed confession or something. I don't know. But no.
That's kind of exactly what I was thinking. If he had destroyed it, it would have been one of those things like, on the deathbed, I actually found some stuff way back when before Roswell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he would have to, draw someone a map or something. It was like a treasure map.
Yeah,
Here's where it's buried. X marks the spot. That was a really interesting question, though.
Yeah, right.
So, talking about the debris, let's skip ahead a little bit to the flying, as I use my air quotes, the flying disc announcement. So, if you go to July 8th of 1947, Roswell Army Airfield issued a press release saying that they had recovered a quote-unquote flying disc. And that story, of course, it just broke loose, spread like wildfire. So why did the military use the term flying disc? Did that have anything to do with the Kenneth Arnold sighting a couple of weeks before and that newspaper coin term? I say yes. I there's no way that they didn't know that there was the term flying disc. The Army didn't come up. The press came up with that. The Army didn't.
Exactly.
So there's no way that they didn't know about it. They were reading the papers, So yeah. So I think they deliberately used flying disc to describe a UFO, but I don't know why they chose that particular phrase.
Yeah, you never know. And it's always, I feel like with the military, it's like either you think they're like really clever or it's like they're being just really dumb.
Especially this day and age.
Yeah, especially this day and age.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, I would love to know why they use the term flying disc. Like, what was the reasoning behind that? Because, if you go back and you listen to the news report from ABC that I played at the top of the show, even the military said there was not enough of this debris for us to even say what shape this thing was. So were they using the phrase flying disc to say we found a UFO? Was that their terminology? You know, was that their way of saying this is a UFO?
Yeah. I mean, I think people would naturally relate it to the Kenneth Arnold.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people can relate the difference between a flying disc and a flying saucer. I think people understand that it's probably a similar concept, even if, they hadn't really seen the pictures. But given the nature of what they were trying to describe.
Well, you also have to think, okay, so the term UFO, unidentified flying object, that didn't get invented until 1952. So we're talking 1947 here. Yeah. So what, 5 years before? So there was no such thing as UFO.
Yeah.
So they had to, that was their way of describing UFO, just by saying flying disc.
Yep.
That's my opinion anyway. So was when they released the statement, you have to ask, was that statement approved through proper channels? Did it get vetted like what it should have been? And I actually would say it absolutely did not get vetted. Somebody jumped the gun on that, and somebody, was like, "Hey, man, we this is a chance to make history or something. This is a way, that we can, I don't know, get famous." I have no idea, but I think somebody jumped the gun. I think somebody got too excited and exceeded their authority on that, because there is absolutely no way that any of the brass, at the top brass, would, at the Pentagon or at wherever, would have said, yeah, let's release this story and let's say this,
Unless they were trying to shape a public perception of things, as opposed to actually telling the truth about what it could be.
So you think it was kind
of like a psyop?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, let's keep this let's keep this disc-shaped flying saucer thing going,
because that's going to distract from the real story of what was happening here.
Yeah.
Such as Project Mogul. Which was, if you read, and we're going to talk about Project Mogul later, but if you really get into the heart of Project Mogul, it's like, did that really warrant all of this? All of this stupid cover up for that? I don't think that Project Mogul was worth it for that.
Yeah, because I know we'll get into this later, but if the U.S. was really trying to reverse engineer this stuff, and they'd be like, oh man, a UFO crashed in the desert. Oh, this is what it looked like. As opposed to like, oh shit, we just crashed one of our test flights.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. So speaking of that, what do you think that there was information that was classified that was involved in this? Were they either trying to cover up classified information, or did they mistakenly release classified information? Which one did they do?
I'm gonna say that someone mistakenly leaked classified information.
In the form that we have a UFO here.
Yeah, and they had to like scramble and backtrack and be like, oh no, actually it's a weather balloon. Yeah, we misidentified it.
Whoopsie. Yeah. I once again, I can't believe, but I'm agreeing with you. I think there was classified information that was released, because the more I learn about it, the more I have to say I think that something did crash there, and it wasn't ours. Whether that was Soviet or from another distant planet, the Pleiades or whatever, I don't know, but I think something crashed there, and it wasn't ours.
Yep.
So to close this segment here, let's end it with this. how does an elite military unit mistake a weather balloon if it was Project Mogul? How does this elite 509th Bomber Group mistake a weather balloon for a flying saucer? How does that happen?
I think the answer is it doesn't, and that's the piece. Is it? You know, that's not gonna happen. So, but I don't think at the time people would think about it because they didn't know as much about this phenomenon as we did, or we currently do.
So you're saying that they saw what they thought was a flying saucer, and they said, "We found a flying saucer." I mean, they just said it.
Yeah.
We see it, so we're saying it.
Yes, but that was not meant to get out, but it did, and then they backtracked and be like, no, this is actually a weather balloon.
So that's
but
someone.
In reality, you can't compare the two.
So that's someone jumping the gun.
Yeah.
And not getting the proper clearance.
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can go with that. Mm-hmm. I can go with that. Yeah.
So I guess it kind of continues on. Within hours, General Roger Ramey announced that the object was simply a weather balloon. Photographs were taken showing debris that appeared consistent with balloon material. Years later, Jesse Marcel would claim those materials were not what he originally recovered.
Ooh, yeah, I've heard this too.
Mm-hmm. So was this an honest correction or was it a cover story?
I believe Marcel. Mm-hmm. I just have to. If it was Project Mogul or some other secret government experiment or project or whatever it was, I can totally see him taking that to his grave, you know?
Yeah.
There would be, because when you're in the military or when you work for the government and you get that top secret clearance or whatever secret clearance he had, that doesn't, just because you retire or quit or get terminated or whatever, that doesn't mean you get to talk about the secret stuff that you saw.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, even though he might have been retired at the time, if he would have said, "Oh, blah blah blah," then the government could have been well within their rights to come and arrest him, you know, and put him in jail, put him on trial or whatever, you know. Now, just you take my time working as a contractor for the government. I had to have a top secret clearance, and that's something that the government takes extremely seriously, and so did I. Now, I've gone on record, and I'm going to go on record for saying this again. I wasn't, you know, in some sort of black ops thing. I wasn't being flown around the world assassinating people. You know, I wasn't part of some MJ-12 or MJ-13 or anything like that. You know, at least not that I remember. I could have had my brain washed. I don't know. But you know, the point is that I had a top secret clearance, but I wasn't doing clandestine, necessarily top secret things. But the things that I worked around and the things that I were exposed to, there were top secret. There was secret stuff there. And did I see stuff and experience stuff, and was I involved in stuff that I can't talk about? Absolutely, I was. Now, if I do talk about it, is the government going to come arrest me? No, because it wasn't anything that top secret. I could probably tell it right now, you know, and because it's kind of generic. But you know, the point is I really shouldn't, because I had that clearance, and I had, you know, that I signed the document, you know, to say don't talk about stuff.
Yep.
So I don't talk about it. As mundane as it is, I don't talk about it. I don't want to risk it. Yeah, so why would someone who had a military career, why would he risk it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I do think it was.
So when Marcel sees the pictures and whatnot, he's like, "That's not what I." Years later, though, after it's said and done with, he's
right.
That
He's
is
like,
not what I.
Yeah, that's not what I was holding in my hand. Yeah. So I think there was some sort of cover story. I mean, I'm going to take the think out of it. There was a cover story going on in Roswell, whether it was to cover up the fact that a UFO crashed or whether there was a secret project that crashed. There was a cover story, and because someone jumped the gun and did something they weren't supposed to and released this classified information that they weren't supposed to release, that's why the narrative changed so quick. Somebody had to do a real deep, quick spin on this. And I am shocked, I tell you, that Jesse Marcel did not get thrown in the brig. That tells me that someone above him was making a decision and telling him to do this. And I think someone above him that we don't know anything about took the fall for that because they should have.
Interesting. So if the military lied, what were they hiding?
Who in the hell knows? They're hiding a UFO, hiding alien technology. If it was indeed a craft from another world, but if it was some sort of top secret government project, then if it was a top secret government project, the reason you keep things secret is because you don't want the other side to know what it is that you're doing. And the reason you don't want them to know what it is that you're doing is because they can either develop the technology themselves or figure out a way how they can counteract it. So, you don't want that type of information getting out. So
yeah, I mean, my mind goes to like, if a otherworldly UFO crashed, then this was the launch point for all of our reverse engineering that the Skunk Works has been doing for the past 60 years. That is the theory, that this was the launch point for a lot of the reverse engineering and aircraft design that we're able to produce.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of related to that, Major Jesse Marcel, as we said, was an intelligence officer involved in recovering the debris. Decades later, Marcel stated that the material was unlike anything he had encountered before and insisted it was not a weather balloon. So we kind of touched on this before, but was Marcel credible? Seems like it.
I think he was credible, but then having to retract that story damaged it. But initially, I think he's credible. Yeah.
There's always this debate on when you wait so long to talk about something, is your memory still remembering things correctly?
Oh my God, I would hope that something that major, yes. I would hope that would be the answer, would be yes.
So given his role in the recovery, is he the strongest witness to the Roswell story? Do we think?
Wow. There are so many witnesses out there.
They all have a different viewpoint, obviously.
Yeah. There are so many. I don't know that would be considered to be the strongest. But definitely if you're going to roll I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but if you're going to roll the dice on that and give him hit points or whatever, he's pretty credible. Cause my God, there's a picture, of him holding the debris and he's the one saying, this is not, we don't know what this is. So I think he's pretty damn credible. I don't know about the most, but he is pretty damn strong as far as his credibility goes.
a piece on just a thought on that picture of him holding the debris. Mm-hmm. If that UFO had come from outer space, let's say, and crashed, would you be able to pick up something like that just like off the cuff? And that seems like a bizarre thing to do, right?
Yeah. But I mean, we're talking about 1947 here, so people weren't as cautious, I guess.
I'm just saying, like, physically, like, would you, I mean, wouldn't you think that, I mean, because they land, you know, when the astronauts come back, they land that shit in the, in the ocean for a reason, and I think part of it is because it's so hot, and there's, you know, the feasibility of landing.
But we're talking about days later, though, so I would have think that it would have had time to cool off, and what he was holding in his hand was, in my opinion, was relatively small compared to, you know, it wasn't like a huge hunking piece of space debris or anything like that. So, yeah. So speaking of Jesse Marcel and all of this stuff, I just don't know that you could take him and move him down on the credibility list. He's just, like I said, he was there holding stuff. So I just don't see how you can discredit him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a first responder in this scenario.
That's a good point. Yeah, he is a first responder. Yeah. So if you're going to talk about cover-ups and credibility and all this other sorts of stuff, you're going to have to talk about Project Mogul. You got to bring that into the subject. And in case no one knows what Project Mogul is, in case you haven't heard of it, and if you know anything about the Roswell story, I'm sure you know about Project Mogul. But Project Mogul, in a nutshell, involved high altitude balloon arrays that were designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. And that's Project Mogul in a nutshell. It's more complicated than that, but that's it in a nutshell. And in the 1990s, the Air Force concluded that Roswell was the result of a crashed Mogul balloon. And for a long time, I subscribed to that. I believed in it. I was like, this was Project Mogul. Case closed. That's it. But the more I learn about Roswell, the more unsure that I am. So, you know, does Mogul explain the debris? Can you take all that debris and all the weirdness associated with it and say this came from Project Mogul? I say no. I say you can't, because there's too many people who talk about crumpling up the material and then, you know, opening up their hand or laying it back on the table or whatever, and it flattens back out. And you know, I there's too much stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't make sense for a weather balloon. I mean, we all know what balloons look like, and I assume it was a elementary version of modern day hot air balloons or something related to that. Also, if a balloon starts to deflate, it doesn't just come crashing down all at once.
Now, see, that is a very, very good point. So even if the balloon exploded and fell to the earth, you wouldn't have, I don't think, that large debris field. Now, from what I understand, there's a bunch of stuff associated with Project Mogul, so they called it a balloon train, which implies that there was a lot of stuff attached to this floating underneath it or whatever. But I mean, could that explain this large debris field that Mac Brazel found on his property? Maybe, but I just don't see. I don't see it being that scattered.
Yeah,
you know, if a balloon came down because it popped, it ruptured, then to me it would fall more in a straight down type pattern. And if it were losing air because it had a hole in it and it was coming in a diagonal, then it wouldn't have an impact crater.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
So I think the debris field can help explain away Project Mogul, in my opinion.
Yep. I would agree. Also, I mean, I assume these balloon arrays were probably being used pretty frequently, considering the nature of the time frame.
I believe that there were at least several of them. Yes.
So you would feel like if an Air Force guy, stumbled upon one of these, at least a major, I would feel like would be pretty familiar with what one of these looked like. Or at least parts of it looked like. I'm gonna
have to push back on that, because if it were a top secret project, then that's gonna be on a need to know basis, and he might not have had the need to know, even if the stuff was being launched from the 509th Bomber Group, or if it was being received by the 509th Bomber Group. He wouldn't necessarily have been in the need to know, regardless of what his rank was. Now, hold on your horses here for a second, because I'm not trying to say that I am an expert in top secret clearance and need to know basis and all that other sorts of stuff, because I am not. I was just a dude that was a military contractor that held a top secret clearance. So, I'm not saying that I am the be all end all expert on top secret clearance and who has what need to know. But I do know enough about it to say that even if he was on the same base where the stuff was happening and he wasn't directly involved in that program, he probably did not have a need to know.
Okay.
But I'm going to back up on that too and say, if that stuff crashed and they sent him out there, why wouldn't they have sent someone from the base who did have a need to know about that stuff? Because surely they would have known where their Project Mogul balloon was,
Yeah, they would have. Yeah, I mean, I know they obviously had radar at this point. We had radar. So
absolutely.
You would know if something just disappeared from radar.
Yeah, and you would have some way to track your balloon that you launched. You would be able to keep up with it. So I would think that if it was a Project Mogul balloon, that they would have known that that's what it was. And I think Mac Brazel, if it was Project Mogul, then Mac Brazel beat them to the punch, But then again, you got to say, well, it was several days before anyone got notified. So why did they wait several days? So there's all these unanswered questions that are surrounding this that we'll probably never be able to answer, because if you answer one question, it can create more, as exactly what's happening right here, right now.
Yep.
So, does Project Mogul and what happened, does it explain the original press release? Does it explain the witness testimony? It can, but I don't think it does.
I think it can on the surface.
Yes.
I think it does on the surface.
Yeah, on the surface.
Like anything, once you start digging a little deeper, you're like, well, doesn't really add up.
And is Project Mogul, is that the answer to the Roswell mystery? Or is it just like the most convenient explanation? I think you got to say it's probably the most convenient explanation.
Yeah, I think it is. Yep. So seemingly that was kind of it for a while. They were like, oh, the weather balloon crashed, and that was that. To a certain extent. And then Roswell attracted little public attention. And then in 1978, Stanton Friedman interviewed Jesse Marcel, helping to revive the case. And Roswell soon became one of the most famous UFO incidents in history.
If not the most famous.
Yeah. So the question is, why did Roswell just disappear, or kind of just go away for a while? And then why did it suddenly return? Or what's the impact, I guess, of that?
Well, I think that it disappeared for 30 years because we had this, back then, we had trust in the government. And the government said, there's nothing to see here, folks. This was a weather balloon. We were mistaken. We made a mistake. We are so sorry. It was a weather balloon. And I think people took that for what it was. They're like, hey, our government made themselves look like jackasses. Ha ha. It was a weather balloon. And then you forget about it. And then, you rock forward 30 years and Stanton Friedman meets Jesse Marcel's son, and Jesse Marcel's son introduces him to Jesse Marcel, and he does this interview, and he contradicts every damn thing that the government said.
Yep.
So, bam, that's why you get this. Why did it suddenly return? It suddenly became, it never went anywhere.
Yeah.
It never really went away, but it just got, as soon as Stanton Friedman released this interview, wrote this book and everything, it was like, holy crap. Because even though it was 30 years ago, there were still plenty of people alive who remembered it.
Oh, yeah.
I
mean, imagine being in your 20s and Roswell happens. It's like, whoa, what the heck? And then you're in your 50s one day and it's like, wait a second, hold on.
I thought that was a weather balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or being a kid, being at elementary school, and then all of a sudden you're in your early 30s.
Yeah.
So
it's so funny because you're right about the post World War II. The trust in government was at an all-time high. Everyone was like, war. We just won the war, and then and then 30 years later, it's like, maybe not.
Yeah. And now you fast forward to today, and nobody trusts the government, and rightly so. I'll have to say, but not getting into a
not to go down that route.
No politics shall be discussed here. So I think that's why once Jesse Marcel opened up and this became public knowledge, I think that other people were like, well, shit, it's been 30 years. Let me tell my story. Now, are there plenty of people who know nothing about it, or plenty of people who are making shit up? Absolutely. But you got to look at the ones that are the really, really creditable witnesses. And I think that's why that they are so comfortable, is because talking, or at least why they were before they all started dying. But it's that Martin. Hell, you got Major Marcel. He's coming clean. Well, let me tell my story then.
Yep.
If he's telling his story.
A snowball. It's like one starts talking and everyone else does.
Yep.
So did it become bigger because of the new evidence, or just because people kind of got a renewed interest, or both? I think they're related.
I think they are. I think renewed public interest played a major role in it. And with the renewed public interest, you start finding, there's this evidence that we didn't know that we had. And so I think you're right, Eric. I think it's both.
Yeah. And I mean, 78, the amount of like you said, UFO term got coined in 52 or so. And then, the amount of stuff that happened in the 50s and 60s and 70s related to UFOs and aliens is just,
yeah,
exponentially at an exponential rate.
Yeah, and then you start having all these sci-fi movies and all of this other stuff. So, yeah. So I think now, man, we've been going for about an hour, so I think now is a good time to pause for the cause and this special extra long episode and take a quick break. And we're going to let you listen to these commercial messages.
You've listened to the stories. You've questioned the truth. Now it's time to wear it. Head over to ParaReality.com and check out the official ParaReality merchandise shop. T-shirts featuring the official podcast logo, the iconic ParaReality all-seeing eye, plus mugs, hats, totes, pillows, stickers, and yes, even something for your pooch. But while you're there, don't stop at the merch. Look a little closer. Dig a little deeper. Somewhere on the site, you'll find the entrance to the secret bunker, the members-only section of ParaReality.com. Inside, the ParaReality top secret files. Real FBI documents on UFOs, aliens, Bigfoot, Adolf Hitler, and more. Plus classified audio. some of the strangest messages ever left on the secret bunker hotline, and access to a secret podcast side project that's never been released publicly. And here's the best part. It's all absolutely free. Once you're in, don't forget to claim your free ParaReality Podcast Secret Bunker t-shirt. Just make sure you place your order. The truth is out there. The bunker is waiting. Visit ParaReality.com and find what you weren't supposed to.
Suffering from dry, tired, irritated eyes? Don't let dry eyes win. Use Sustain Pro. It hydrates, restores, and protects dry eyes for up to 12 hours. Sustain Pro. Triple action dry eye relief.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Now, before we continue talking about Roswell and this special extra long 79th anniversary edition of the Roswell Quash, I got to just do some shameless self-promotions here. So we talked about how Eric and I are going to be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference next Saturday. And one of the things we're going to be doing is hawking merch. So if you're going to be there and you are, I'm hoping if you're going to be there, you're into Sasquatch and cryptids and stuff. Stop by my booth and check out my book, 50 Cryptids in 50 States. I have a copy right here. Bam. I hold it up in front of the camera if I can. 50 Cryptids in 50 States. It's a field guide to America's most mysterious creatures. This will be for sale, and it is a big, long labor of love from me. It takes one cryptid. Sometimes they're well-known, sometimes they're not so well-known, but it takes one cryptid from each of the 50 states to include Alaska and Hawaii. And it tells you in a field journal style a little bit about each one of those cryptids. And like I said, some of these you probably are familiar with. Some of them you may not have ever heard of. I wanted to take one from every state. There's no way that I'm going to try to write all about every cryptid in every state or whatever. But anyway, this book is going to be for sale at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. It's also available on my website at ParaReality.com and at Amazon.com for purchase. I would love it if you buy a copy of that book, or that's actually my second book. I have my first book right here. It's called Palo Santo and Sage, Sacred Smoke and Spiritual Cleansing for the Beginner. If you are into sage, Palo Santo, cleansing your space, stuff like that, this gives you is chock full of rituals that you can use to cleanse your space, your personal self. There's a whole entire chapter devoted to paranormal investigators and how to cleanse your tools and equipment and spaces. And you don't have to read this from cover to cover. You just simply find the ritual that you're looking for, and you just use the book as your guide. It also teaches you how to develop your own ritual. And this will also be for sale at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. It's also available on my website, ParaReality.com, and on Amazon.com. So if you're going to be at the conference and want to pick up a book, stop on by and find our table. We'd love to meet you guys. So that's it for shameless self-promotion. Eric, you want to shamelessly self-promote yourself?
Don't have much to self-promote, to be honest. No books yet.
Don't sell yourself short, sir.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short. So let's get back to talking about Roswell. Thank you guys for putting up with that shameless self-promotion. So we talked about before the break about Roswell returning to the mainstream, largely in part because of an interview that Stanton Friedman did with Jesse Marcel. And we ended with a question: did Roswell become bigger because of renewed public interest or because of new evidence? And Jesse Marcel played a big role in that. But there's someone else that played a big role, and that's a guy by the name of Glenn Dennis. Now, who was Glenn Dennis? Well, he was a mortician that was in the area, and he claimed that personnel from the base contacted him regarding the purchase of child-sized caskets. And he also said that there was a nurse that talked to him and described strange autopsies that were conducted on the base involving these recovered bodies. And as a result of his claims, Glenn Dennis has become one of the most controversial Roswell witnesses. And you have to ask, was this guy telling the truth at all, or was he just trying to jump on the Roswell bandwagon and let me try to get a little bit, my 15 minutes of fame here?
Yeah, it's a weird one. He, I was just reading a little blurb about him. Sounds like he kind of went back and forth a little bit on his testimony.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why he's such a controversial figure, because he number one, he waited for a while before he came out, and then his story kind of flip-flops back and forth, and it doesn't match, which is one of the reasons, Eric, why critics challenge his account of the story, because it does flip-flop back and forth, right?
It does. Yeah, I mean, basically he said he had a friend, he had a nurse friend at the Roswell Army Airfield that came to him. Yeah, and basically said, we got these, she participated in these autopsies of these child-sized things. I'm reading from RoswellFiles.com, and it said a nurse was transferred on September 4th, 1947 because of a medical condition, and was admitted to another hospital in Texas. Another nurse was transferred to Fort Worth Army Airfield on July 23rd, 1947, not early July, as claimed by Dennis. So there's like some inconsistencies in his
exactly.
memory,
Exactly. Which is, like I said, that's why people challenge his accounts. But then you also have people who defend it. So why are they defending it so much?
Yeah.
Can't answer that question. That if he was right about the whole thing and his story and his point of view, what implications does that have for the Roswell case? And if he wasn't right, if he was lying and making stuff up, why would he create such a detailed story?
Yeah, that's a deep question. I mean, arguably, the account that kind of changes the story from just a crash to a literally finding otherworldly beings, which changes everybody's perspective of the reality we live in.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to get on the bandwagon of him. I'm going to be on the side of him not necessarily telling the truth. So that's one of the reasons why you create such a detailed story. A lot of people who are, for lack of a better word, liars, they will create such detailed stories to try to justify their lie. So that could be a possible explanation for why this guy was having such a detailed story.
Yeah. Also could have been like, I want to get involved in this. It's popular.
Let me get my 15 minutes of fame type deal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to segment 9 and talk about the alien body recovery stories. I think that's for you. That sounds like a good one for you.
Yeah. So numerous witnesses eventually came forward claiming bodies had been recovered. Descriptions generally involve small humanoid beings, like we just talked about, the childlike beings and the child coffins, with unusual physical characteristics, which I think we can elaborate a little bit. They basically looked like grays.
Yeah.
It's pretty much
modern day
like
grays.
Long fingers, oval shaped eyes, things like that. So we kind of touched on this a bit with Dennis, but why are the stories so inconsistent? And does the inconsistency automatically mean it's false?
No, it doesn't. I think stories being inconsistent, once again, you got to look at, people didn't talk about this for 30 years. So people's stories are going to be different. Memory is not going to be as clear and sharp. So, that does jibe with it, with the inconsistencies. It does it. You what were you doing 30 years ago? Well, you were 2. So, I mean,
I was very small.
But what I was doing 30 years ago, I don't know what I was doing 30 years ago. I mean, I have a general idea, but was there? But then again, I didn't have this, universal, huge event happen to me that happened to so many other people. So, but I would think it would be consistent about that. The inconsistency is consistent.
Yeah. I mean, the memory thing is always crazy because on one hand, I'm like, obviously people misremember stuff after 30 years, but on the other hand, I'm like, if somebody saw a childlike humanoid body that doesn't look like a human, like that is something I feel like that would be ingrained in your brain, like that picture.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's something so bizarre and unlike anything you've ever seen. Like, you don't forget that. So that on one hand, I'm like, yeah, memories fade and you can't recall the original account to the T, but like, also if you see something so bizarre, it sticks in your brain.
Yeah, for sure. So. Yeah. Like I said, I would probably, if I had some significant event like that happen, I would probably remember. I would think, so I don't know, like, significant event, my dad died over 30 years ago. So you can kind of put that in the same thing. I still remember, a lot of details about that whole thing, because that was like a 5-week long ordeal, not to get in any weird, sad territory or anything like that. But that was a significant event that happened to me 30 years ago that I remember a lot of details, but there's also a lot of things that I don't remember. Mm-hmm. Like he was in a hospital and there was this nurse who was just so extremely nice and she made an impact on me. Let me put it that way. Yeah. I can see her face as clear as day in my head. Mm-hmm. No idea what her name was.
Yeah.
And we talked every day. I knew her name. I have no idea what it was.
Yeah.
So there is, that whole thing. There's something significant that happened. It was 30 years ago. I can't remember all the details.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
But it doesn't make the story false.
Exactly. No, it's a great point. It's a great point. So did the body recovery stories create the Roswell legend, or did the Roswell legend create the body recovery stories?
Ooh.
This is an interesting
debate. I think that Roswell's legend created the body recovery stories. That's what I think. I'm not so sure that there were bodies that were found out there. I think there was a craft, but I'm not so sure about the bodies. I don't know. What do you think, man?
Yeah, again, like we said, sometimes the questions raise more questions. So if it was a craft, who was piloting it then? And then did anyone actually crash and die? Or, you see what I'm saying?
Well, if you believe the body theories, they were all dead.
Yeah, they were dead, so then something was piloting them, right?
Yeah.
But if there were no bodies, then who was piloting the craft?
Okay, good question.
Yeah.
Good question. So, I don't know.
I mean, or maybe, I guess if it's a top secret, maybe there could have been an airman that died and they don't have to really disclose that.
But, okay, so we've got drones.
Yeah.
So maybe that was a drone craft. I don't know. But you bring up a good point. That makes me feel stupid after what I just said.
It's just, I think it's just part of the puzzle.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And now I'm going to have to retract my other one. I'm going to have to say I think the bodies created the Roswell legend now, because it doesn't make sense. There had to be something piloting it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but again, if you believe, you know, you got to kind of choose who to believe in this scenario. But yeah, if you believe the body recovery stories, then it would make sense that it was a craft because, like you just said, something had to be in control.
That's true. I guess I defeated my own point of view there. I don't know. So speaking of stuff like that, you know, there's also a rumor that there was not one but two crash sites. One of the sites contained debris, and the second site actually contained the bodies along with a physical craft.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when and why did this emerge? And it's kind of, I mean, does it give us reconciliation to some of the conflicting testimony, right? Because you have inconsistent stories, you have different eyewitness accounts. Some saw bodies, some didn't. Some saw this UFO, some only saw debris. So does that account for the inconsistencies? Yes, it does. But was it invented because of the inconsistencies? See where I'm going?
Was the second crash invented?
Yes.
Yeah, because of the inconsistencies.
Yes, there were inconsistencies. So people who wanted to promote the UFO theory just said, oh, there was a second crash site. They invented it.
I could see that. For sure. People want to get involved. They're like, oh, you know, the government actually didn't tell you this.
Yeah, exactly. 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 So we may never know if there were one or two crash sites, because that's really not something that you hear a lot in whenever you talk about the Roswell lore. You don't necessarily hear a lot of the stuff about there being two crash sites. So we may never know. But let's move on and talk about Hangar 84. What do you have for us about Hangar 84?
So some researchers believe debris and bodies were stored in Hangar 84 at the Roswell Army Airfield. This building has become a lesser known but persistent element of Roswell lore.
Yeah, I'll have to admit, I didn't know anything about Hangar 84 until just a couple of years ago. To be honest.
I obviously had heard that, you know, things were hauled off and stored somewhere. I thought they were moved away from the base, though, like to Patterson.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Maybe some of the stuff was, maybe some of the stuff had to stay at Hangar 84. I don't know.
Yes, I mean, why isn't this discussed more often? And is it generally significant?
I can't tell you why it's not discussed more often, but I think it is significant. Whether it's true or not, I think that it's significant. I think just about anything these days that has to do with Roswell, you can't just discredit it automatically, but it is significant. And I'm going to go off topic here for a second, but have you ever heard of the movie Hangar 18?
I've heard of the name. I don't know what it's about.
So it's a UFO crash movie.
Okay.
It's basically telling the story of Roswell.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So, UFO crashes out in the desert outside the small town. Basically what happened was, the reason it crashed was because there was a space shuttle crew on a mission, and they were releasing a satellite out of the bay, and they were being observed by a UFO. Everybody saw it. They released for whatever reason, they said, we're still going to go ahead and release this satellite, and the satellite crashed into the UFO, and there was this big explosion, killed one of the astronauts, and the UFO crash landed on Earth. Well, the two surviving astronauts was like, there's a damn UFO. We're going to go find this thing. The government was like, there's nothing to see here. There's no UFO. So it's them against the government, right? And basically the UFO, the government found the UFO. They took it to Hangar 18 on this military base, and they were reverse engineering the UFO.
Got it.
And I'm not going to tell you how it ends. There's a shock surprise ending. But it now this movie was done in the early 80s. Okay. But it's still kind of, even though the effects are dated, and the rapidity, that is not a word. The rapidness that the government was able to, how quickly they were able to reverse engineer this UFO and find out all its secrets was astonishing. Mm-hmm. It's like they did it in like, a couple of days. Yeah. It's like, no, that's not going to happen.
That's not how it works.
Yeah. But yeah, you should, if you got Prime, yeah, it's on Prime. You should watch it.
Okay.
Get Rach and force her to watch it with you.
Man, that's the next movie night. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can blame it on me. He was like, "Oh God,
that was bad."
Yeah. It's Sean's fault. He made me do it. And she would believe that. She would totally believe that. She knows me, so she'd be like, "Yeah, I can see that."
Oh yeah, she would, 100%. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like sort of a precursor to Area 51 is what it sounds like, where they take
Hangar 84.
Hangar 84 does.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But
probably.
At the time, it would have had to be because.
Yeah, I mean, you got to store it somewhere, right?
Yeah. I don't even think Area 51 was around yet. I don't even know if they've disclosed when they started Area 51.
I want to say I read it somewhere, but it wasn't back in 1947. I tell you, it was much later than that. Yeah. Well, that's going to move us to MJ-12.
This is where it gets good.
Yeah, you want to talk about government secrets and all this other sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So you got the Majestic 12 documents, and these things didn't surface until sometime in the 80s. And allegedly, they describe a secret government committee that was tasked with handling recovered alien tech. And now it depends on who you talk to, of whether these documents are real or not, because they are extremely controversial. I don't know whether they are authentic documents or whether they are a hoax. I kind of lean towards them being authentic just because of what we're talking about and the level of secrecy that was going on at this time. Mm-hmm. I kind of tend to think they were authentic. What about you?
I tend to think they were authentic, and if I could just take a second and go through some of the people that were described as designated members.
Yeah, now this is where I have problems with stuff. Okay. I think the MJ-12 documents are, for the most part, the genuine, but I have problems with the people who were named on there. But
there's some interesting ones, so I'm going to read out some of the interesting ones. Okay. So this guy's Detlev Bronk. He was a prominent American scientist, educator, administrator. He's credited with establishing biophysics as a recognized discipline. Bronk served as president of Johns Hopkins from 49 to 53 and as president of the Rockefeller University.
Nice.
From 53 to 68. Hold on. Okay. Vannevar Bush was an American engineer, inventor, and science administrator who was, during World War II, head of U.S. Office of Scientific Research and Development, through which almost all wartime military R&D was carried out.
Okay.
Robert M. Montague was a lieutenant general in the U.S. Army. He achieved prominence as a deputy commander of Fort Bliss, Texas, commander of Sandia Missile Base in New Mexico, and head of the U.S. Caribbean Command.
Okay.
We'll go one more. Roscoe Henry Hillenkotter. It's a tough last name. I think I was close. Was the third director of the post-World War II United States Central Intelligence Group, the third director of Central Intelligence and the first director of the Central Intelligence Agency created by the National Security Act of 1947. The reason I mention these guys is because they are closely, I think a lot of them are closely related to the origins of the Central Intelligence Agency and that whole apparatus that was developed. Yeah.
Okay.
So given the sensitive nature of what could have been the Roswell incident, they were all included as part of that MJ-12 group.
Okay.
And then I think the one guy
that makes sense.
The one guy being the president of the Rockefeller University. That's an interesting connection, I think, as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I have a little bit of concern about the people who are listed as being part of MJ-12, because, you know, I mean, a lot of these people are not necessarily affiliated with the government, and I would think that they would have stronger government ties. But I don't know what if they did or didn't have government ties. I'm assuming they did, but I would think they would have strong government ties. Mm-hmm. That's just my 2 cents.
Makes sense.
So, with this controversial document, like, who would benefit if it was a fake document? Who would benefit from creating this fake document? What would be
I mean, you could say the government would. They create a substantial fake document, basically getting people to believe that, oh, these guys were the ones involved, when actually it's completely separate but still related to the government.
So your argument is that the government, another smoke and mirror thing, the government created a false narrative to detract away from the real secret.
Yeah, basically, kind of the rabbit hole I'm falling down, being like, oh, this guy was this was the first director of the CIA. Oh yeah, he was in the MJ-12 documents. Yeah, that sounds about right. But really, it's something else.
And all the people in it that they named were the actual people
Real
too.
People.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Who had substantial involvement in the time period.
True.
Yep.
But even if this document is a fake document, it's become, in a lot of ways, more influential than a lot of the genuine government documents. You know? So, I mean, that's the significance of this document.
Well, no, you're exactly right. I mean, because there was not a lot at the time, government-wise, that commented on the Roswell crash. I mean, from what I've seen, it was a media phenomenon, but there wasn't a lot of deep digging into what the Roswell crash actually was up in, until like the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. You mean by the government?
By the government.
Yeah.
I mean, they pretty much swept it under the rug. It was like, oh yeah, it was just a weather balloon. And then it was like, we're good, moving on.
Yep. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
So I think that probably contributes to its substantiality, or so-called substantiality, because it is pretty much the, one of probably the few main documents concerning the Roswell crash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of brings us to, speaking of controversial stuff, that kind of brings us to something that I have really been waiting for us to talk about, and that is Nick Redfern. So I know there's some stuff that you want to bring up about Nick Redfern. And this is, once again, something that I only found out about a couple of years ago, in part thanks to his book, but I'm gonna let you talk about Nick Redfern here.
Yeah, for sure. So if you're not familiar with Nick Redfern, but I think most people who listen,
God, I would hope so.
Yeah. Famous writer, researcher about UFO phenomenon and many other topics. In Body Snatchers in the Desert, researcher Nick Redfern proposed a radically different explanation for Roswell. According to intelligence sources cited by Redfern, Roswell may have involved a Soviet psychological warfare operation utilizing physically altered human beings rather than extraterrestrials. The theory includes allegations involving post-war human experimentation and concepts associated with Nazi Dr. Joseph Mengele.
That is just so wild.
That is a wild take.
Yeah, and when he released this book, now this book has been out for years.
Mm-hmm.
When he released this book, he was the pimple on the ass of ufology. Ufologists hated him for this. He took a lot of heat for it. Mm-hmm. But you know what? That heat has lifted over the past several years, and everyone has kind of been more like, oh, maybe he was onto something here. You know, even the publishing company that had the publishing rights, Simon and Schuster, they sat on this book after it was done. He had it done, ready. All they had to do was print it and release it.
Really?
And they sat on it for, I think, about a year, because they knew that this was going to be hella controversial.
Wow.
And I don't know how he talked them into releasing it or what all the story is behind that. But yeah, they sat on that for a while before they released it.
Yeah, that is, talk about an all-encompassing theory.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, this is interesting. So why is this theory rarely discussed, and is it more plausible than extraterrestrials?
I think it's just as plausible as extraterrestrials. And I think it's rarely discussed because of what it is. I mean, we're talking about experimentation on actual human beings.
Did Joseph Mengele survive the post-war, or was he sentenced in the Nuremberg?
I think they got him in Nuremberg.
Did they? Okay. I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. To me, it might seem more plausible, just because of the extraterrestrials. You know, that is taking the step that, you know, there is life beyond Earth and that they are able to travel here via a craft that can withstand, you know, the horrors of space travel, which is extreme.
Yeah. And let me back up here on Joseph Mengele. He actually did not get on trial in Nuremberg.
Okay.
I think I was thinking about God, what was the guy's name? Now I'm trying to remember it, and I've just Goring. I think about Goring. Yeah, Mengele actually, he was one of the people that went to South America. And okay. he never got captured. Never stood trial.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
He was I think in Brazil when he died. I think is where he wound up living. Wow. And he was he had a stroke and died.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he lived for a long time. I think he didn't die until 79, so he was old. Escaped prosecution after doing all that crap. Anyway.
So So Redfern's theory is basically saying that they used his concepts to develop these beings, and then basically drop the craft in the desert.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like
interesting.
Nuts. It is nuts.
Yeah, that is a crazy concept.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more disturbing? Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, it kind of is.
It is way more disturbing than alien bodies out there. Yeah. Way more disturbing. So, moving along, because we got so much more to talk about. We're an hour and a half into this. Roswell didn't occur as an isolated incident. History contains a lot of examples about secret government programs later revealed to the public. Things like Operation Paperclip. We were just talking about World War II. MK Ultra, kind of ties into the Majestic 12 thing we were talking about. Project Mogul, which we have talked about here. And one of the most disgusting things is the Tuskegee Airmen thing. This took place in my home state in Alabama, where they infected a lot of guys with syphilis and just let them go.
Yeah.
But they were black guys. Not going to do that to the white guys. We're only going to do it to the black. So, I mean, and then there's, of course, all these stories about the government dosing their own staff with LSD and doing all these LSD experiments and all of this stuff. So we do know that the government experiments on its own people. That is absolutely, hands down, not a theory.
No, that is real.
That is real. That is real. So does all of this secrecy and experimentation on its own people, does it justify the public being skeptic of the government's official stance on this? I mean, the government's released documents, reports. It was like, this is the final Roswell report. And then a few years later, this is the final Roswell report. It was
probably redacted.
Yeah.
So you don't actually know the story.
Yeah. So how much trust should we place in this official explanation?
Well, I mean, that's always the place I come to with these government conspiracies is like, I mean, just the most recent, all the Epstein releases, half of it is redacted. So you don't actually know what happens.
Yeah, no name. Yeah,
literally, they give you enough to like satisfy it, but you don't actually know. And then
blank went to blank and blank.
Exactly.
The end.
So yeah, I mean, government secrecy 100% justifies public skepticism because.
Agreed.
Yeah, they never have they ever given us the true story, and stuff comes out like 30, 40 years later, like they're having Congress is having it's not trials, but they're having like discussions about MK Ultra currently.
Yeah.
Yeah, like every other week they're doing MK Ultra. People are coming out.
Congressional inquiries and stuff. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, has all this made Roswell easier to believe?
Who made it easier to believe? I think it's made it easier to believe that something actually happened. Because, I mean, even if people were believing the government at the time, because we had just gotten out of the war and everyone was happy and trusting the government, doesn't mean that the government wasn't lying.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like, just because people were believing them doesn't mean that they were telling the truth. So, they say it's a weather balloon. I still don't believe that. I just don't believe that.
Yeah, I gotcha.
It's too convenient.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't. I guess I would say it wouldn't make it easier to believe, but it would make it easier to believe that something actually happened. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, the next theory is crash test dummies. The Air Force suggested some body recovery memories may have originated from later high-altitude dummy tests. Critics note that these tests occurred years after Roswell. And, we've touched on this one too. Is memory contamination possible? Yeah. And did the Air Force help or hurt its own case?
Yeah. And was this also, these crash test dummies, were they also attached to Project Mogul? Because there's a theory that they were somehow like Project Mogul and these crash test dummies things were somehow put together in some way.
Crash test dummies were on the balloons.
I've heard that there's theories with crash test dummies being on the balloons, but I've also heard that what was going on was part of the crash test dummy experiment, but once again, it was a secret experiment that they didn't want people to know about, so they covered it up by saying it was a different secret government experiment.
Got
you
it.
see, so it's like, it was Project Mogul.
Yeah.
So people are confusing that crash test dummy thing with Project Mogul. They're getting the two of them superseded over each other.
Okay, got it. Did that explanation doesn't really solve anything for me.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It just kind of goes over my
And
head.
I talked about that in my debunking Roswell episode several years ago.
Okay.
Which, once again, I'm now thinking I was wrong on that because it was Project Mogul.
Well, your theories evolve. So the reverse. I mean, I feel like this is one of the biggest theories: is the reverse engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So many researchers believe Roswell initiated a secret effort to study non-human technology. These theories eventually became connected to Area 51 and other black budget skunkworks programs.
Skunkworks.
Yeah. So if Roswell happened, where would the research occur? And could the technology remain secret for so long?
Well, Patterson was the precursor to Area 51.
Yes.
So if there was anything of any significance, I feel that it would have been stored at Wright-Patterson, and I feel that after Area 51 was developed, I think it was moved to Area 51. And can it remain secret for decades? Absolutely. I mean, we've known Area 51 has existed for decades. We've known that, but we don't know what happens out there.
Yeah.
So, we think we do. We do know that they've invented like the SR-71 Blackbird and some other airplanes and stuff like that. But what else are they developing out there? We don't know.
No, we don't.
And it's really not our business, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is government work. I mean, it's not. There's a reason the public doesn't know everything.
The public does not need to know everything that the government does. Yeah. It is not our business.
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely 100% the technology. It could remain decades. I mean, people claim that the military is like 30 years ahead of anything that the public actually knows about. I've heard that many times, especially concerning like the internet and everything like that.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is a really good question. Are modern UAP claims connected to the whole Roswell saga?
I don't know. I mean, it's all part of UFO lore. So, I mean, do they come in from the same place? I don't know. But
yeah.
I mean, it's all got to kind of be connected in some way.
I mean, there hasn't really been like a UFO crash. I can't think of another UFO crash that's been like, oh, this UFO crashed.
Kecksburg, maybe.
Kecksburg, yeah, the bell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Outside of that, though, I'm trying to rack my brain. I can't. It's usually, it's all obviously Tic Tac UFOs now.
Well, I'm sure if we were to go back in our history, it's you can always remember stuff, and
for sure,
and then you're put on the spot, and you're like, oh crap, I can't remember. But I have I can't find my book. I have a book that lists all the major UFO incidents, in modern lore. So I'm pretty sure
there are definitely some encounters I can think of.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that where crafts have landed. Yeah, things like that for sure. Like that one in New Mexico with the sheriff.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one, especially
the one in I think it was South Africa or somewhere like that with the school kids.
Oh, the Zimbabwe one.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we're kind of getting close to wrapping it up.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of stuff that we really we have on the docket, but we just can't.
It's a lot.
There's just not enough time to talk about it all. So let's skip ahead a little bit and we've talked about so much, but let's end it with the modern disclosure stuff. So today's UAP hearings and whistleblower claims and discussions about non-human intelligences, it kind of sounds similar to arguments surrounding Roswell. And you have to ask yourself, have we learned anything new since 1947?
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of my point earlier. It's like the government releases enough for people to be like, "Oh, yeah, that's interesting." But as far as do we actually have a conclusion to anything? No, I don't think we do.
Well, I think we've learned the different type of craft. There's all this debate about transmedium craft and all this other sorts of stuff. And we have video, so we know that there's different type of craft and we know they can do different things. But I mean, what else have we really learned since 1947?
No, that's a good point, and I would agree with that. I mean, like you said, to add, and I'll just add on, like we know they come out of the ocean, we know that. We know they're tracking our military. We know they fly over nuclear sites.
That's the point I was going to bring up too. Yeah.
But as the origins, no, and I don't think anyone actually. I mean, maybe somebody does out there, but no one publicly does.
Well, I wonder how the government would handle a Roswell type event today. What would happen with it today?
Wow, that's a good question. Man, I guess it would depend on the administration. Probably would be my answer.
That's the thing about being the president is so much of our government is controlled by the military. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a need to know, then you don't know. And the president is considered a temporary job because the longest he's going to be there is for 8 years, supposedly. So there's a lot of, thought that, well, he's temporary, so he doesn't need to know all this stuff. So how much does the government, does our leader know? And how would he be heavily involved in covering stuff up? Or would it just be one of those things where the general that's in charge or whoever is like, don't tell this SOB anything and we'll just take care of it ourselves?
Yeah. I think that's accurate. I mean, there's career politicians and career administrative government employees, but the president, obviously, 8 years max. So it would make sense.
Supposedly.
It would make sense that if you got something really secret, he's probably not the person you're sharing it with.
Yeah, exactly. So, are we any closer, you think, to the truth than we were 79 years ago?
No, I don't. No, the actual truth? No, I don't.
I think the people who are in charge of the truth are, but the public isn't.
Correct.
Yeah. And with that, it's time to take the final commercial break of the evening of this extra. What's going to turn out to be a 2-hour long episode. Thanks. If you guys have listened to the whole thing, start to finish, without a break, thank you, because you guys are troopers.
That's a lot of content.
It's a lot. And we didn't even get to talk about everything that we had in front of us. So there's still some unanswered questions that we even want to talk about ourselves. But anyway, let's take a break, and we'll be back in about another 60 seconds to wind things down.
This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
Hey guys, I'd love to hear from you. Do you have a story, a question, or a topic you'd like me to cover? If so, you can reach me directly by email at sandman@ParaReality.com. Or, for a more personal touch, you can just call the Secret Bunker at 615-461-5001 and leave a message. Just know that by calling, you're giving me permission to feature your voice on the podcast. Again, that number to call is 615-461-5001. You want to stay up to date with all things ParaReality? Then follow me on all major social media platforms. You can find me on Facebook at sandman.parareality, or you can follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok by looking for my handle at ParaRealRadio. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel by looking for ParaReality 1. That's ParaReality with the number 1 behind it. And don't forget to visit my website, ParaReality.com. That's where you'll find an archive of all of my past podcast episodes for free. You can also find the latest in paranormal news from all around the world under the Para News section. Your support means everything, whether you buy something from my store or leave me a positive review on whatever podcast app you're listening on. A 3-star or higher review goes a long way in helping this podcast reach new listeners, and I would truly appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. So before we close it down tonight, Eric and I want to hear from you guys. After everything that we've talked about tonight, the debris field, Jesse Marcel, Glenn Dennis, Hangar 84, Project Mogul, MJ-12, the Nick Redfern theory, government secrecies, modern disclosure, all that sorts of stuff, everything we talked about. What do you believe happened at Roswell? This is like a multiple choice. So was it A, Project Mogul? Was it B, secret American technology? C, a Soviet intelligence or psychological warfare operation, which we really hardly even got to talk about that? Or D, an extraterrestrial spacecraft? Or, I'll give you an E choice, was it something else completely none of the above? So let us know. Give us your answer on Facebook, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, or by email. All of those are flashing down under the screen, but I'll give them to you anyway. Sandman.ParaReality on Facebook, or at ParaRealRadio on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. That's at ParaRealRadio, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, or Sandman.ParaReality on Facebook. So let us know, and if we get anybody who answers, we'll share some of those responses on a future episode of ParaReality. Guys, let me tell you, thanks for sticking in here for a long episode tonight. It turned out to be longer than what Eric and I were thinking it was going to be, so thank you for sticking with us if you stuck through from the very beginning all the way to now, and I understand if you guys had to take a break here and there. Before we leave, Eric, you got anything you want to say? Final thoughts?
No, just say it's a long saga. I mean, spanning literally up until now, all the way from 47. We still don't have the answers we want. So But yeah, would love to hear people's opinions because, we don't really have a conclusion.
Nope.
So it'd be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts. But I thought it was a really good convo.
I did too. Longer than what we thought it was going to be, but it was a really good convo. So as we come to the end of tonight's journey, we're left with the same question that's lingered over the New Mexico desert for 79 years. What really happened at Roswell? Now, that's a question that's inspired countless investigations, generated who knows how many books, thousands of books probably, newspaper articles, internet articles. It's fueled decades of debate among researchers, skeptics, journalists, military historians, and ordinary people like me and Eric having our debate here. Yet, despite all of that attention, despite all of the theories and all of the witness testimony, all of the government reports and all of the speculation, there's still never been a definitive answer. And maybe that's because Roswell isn't just one single mystery. It's got a lot of mysteries layered, one on top of the other attached to it. There's the mystery of the debris itself. What exactly did Mac Brazel find scattered across his ranch? Was it the remains of a top secret military project? Was it an experimental surveillance platform, or was it something just far stranger? There's the mystery of the military's response. Why did one of the most important military installations in the world announce the recovery of a flying disc, only to reverse course like immediately afterwards? Was it just an honest mistake? Was it a misunderstanding involving classified tech, or evidence that something was being concealed from the public? Then there are the witnesses. There are men and women who came forward years, sometimes decades later, with stories of unusual materials, recovered bodies, heightened security, and secret ops. Some of these people appeared like they were really, really sincere, and some have been challenged by critics, and some may have remembered these events accurately, and others may have unknowingly blended a memory with decades of publicity and speculation. So determining where recollection ends and reality begins is something that's going to remain as one of Roswell's greatest challenges as far as I'm concerned. And beyond all of that is a larger mystery still. And that's one that extends far beyond New Mexico itself. Roswell forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about secrecy, trust, and power. History's shown us that government sometimes conceals information from the public. We all know that. We've seen classified projects, covert operations, intelligence programs, and scientific experiments that remain hidden for years before eventually coming to the surface. And knowing that, how much trust should we place in the official explanations? And at the same time, history's also shown us that rumors can grow, stories can evolve, and myths can take on lives of their own. So how do we distinguish between legitimate suspicion and speculation that has drifted beyond the evidence? And maybe that tension is why Roswell continues to resonate with so many people. It exists at the crossroads of belief and doubt. It challenges us to weigh evidence against uncertainty, testimony against documentation, and possibility against probability. And for a lot of people, Roswell represents humanity's first encounter with an extraterrestrial civilization. And for others, it's just an example of Cold War secrecy and military confusion. And still other people see it as a cautionary tale about how stories can evolve over time, how they get shaped by culture, memory, and expectation. And maybe that's why Roswell has never truly faded away from public consciousness. The physical debris, whatever it was, disappeared a long time ago. The witnesses are steadily becoming part of history themselves. And the mystery remains remarkably alive despite all of that. New generations continue to discover the story, examine the evidence, challenge old assumptions, and ask the same questions that people have been asking since that summer in 1947. In a lot of ways, Roswell's become more than just an event. It's become a symbol. It's a symbol of our fascination with the unknown. It's a symbol of our desire to uncover hidden truths. It's a symbol of the uneasy relationship between governments and the people they serve. And perhaps most importantly, a symbol of humanity's enduring curiosity about whether we're truly alone in the universe. And maybe one day a document will surface that settles the debate once and for all. Maybe a forgotten archive will be opened. Maybe new evidence will emerge that finally tips the scales in one direction or another. Or maybe the truth, whatever it is, was lost a long time ago to secrecy and the limitations of human memory. But until that day comes, Roswell remains what it's always been, a mystery. Not because there's no answers, but because there are so many competing answers that none have managed to convince everyone. There's not been one singular convincing answer. 79 years later, we're still searching, we're still questioning, and still looking towards the lonely stretch of desert where one of the greatest controversies of the modern age began. Whatever happened there in July of 1947 left behind more than just debris. It left behind a story that refuses to die. Thank you for joining us on this special anniversary investigation. Until next time, keep questioning, keep searching, and keep your eyes on the skies. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's episode of ParaReality. The next episode is going to drop on next Friday at 8 p.m. Central U.S. time. So make sure you tune in, and find out. Don't forget that Eric and I will be making an appearance at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival next Saturday. We'll be there all day with our equipment set up, waiting to collect your stories of the unexplained. If you're going to be at the conference, find our table, tell us your story, and get it featured on the podcast. And even if you don't have a story to tell, stop by and say hi. We'd love to meet you guys. And you can buy some swag or a book or two while you're there, too. I hope this podcast opened up your minds to new ways of thinking, expands your consciousness, and produces a change in the way you see the world. If you wish to change, you must lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe. Thank you guys for sticking around with this 2-hour-long episode. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening, a great weekend, and Eric and I will see you again next week, especially if you're going to be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. See you guys later. Good night, everybody.
If you wish to change, you must first lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe.